packing a story from the source material that is honestly equal parts awe-inspiring and just deeply dramatic. We're looking at the continuum of Shri Krishna's journey. And we're not just talking about the standard myths you might already know. No, we're diving into this incredibly suspenseful trajectory, from a literally miraculous beginning all the way to an apocalyptic end. We're going to see how this boundless cosmic power navigated the very real, deeply tragic consequences of living a mortal life. So let's step right into this mystery together and see what the texts actually reveal.
I mean, just think about this staggering contrast for a second. How exactly does a child who literally held the entire universe inside his mouth meet his mortal end swallowed by a devastating coastal tsunami? It's a chilling paradox, right? From his very first breath to his dramatic departure, we're tracing the arc of a figure who possessed this untamed divine strength, yet somehow still found himself bound by the relentless ticking clock of fate, epic warfare, and, well, human fragility.
The crucial point where this duality really begins is in, of all places, a simple, quiet garden. Infant Krishna is just crawling around and, like absolutely any baby, he decides to eat a handful of mud. So his ever-watchful mother, Yashoda, rushes over to wipe the dirt from his face. But as she peers inside his mouth, she doesn't just see sand, she sees the cosmos. Solar systems, swirling galaxies, the vast, infinite expanse of the entire universe, all hidden within the tiny mouth of her child. It's this brilliant, staggering realization that beneath this innocent form lay unimaginable power. And wow, was that cosmic power immediately put to the test. His terrifying uncle, King Kamsa, sent a relentless, non-stop wave of beastly assassins just to eliminate this young prodigy. The peaceful forests of Braj Bhumi suddenly transformed into the ultimate backdrop for these intense mythic battles. I mean, first you have the demoness Putana, then Aghasura, who was sent as this massive venomous snake to swallow him whole. Later, Aristasura, a ferocious bull tearing up the riverbanks, and Kalia, the deadly serpent poisoning the Yamuna River. And single-handedly, this child vanquished every single monster thrown his way.
7. That's the magic number here. When the people of Braj decided to worship the nearby Govardhan hill instead of the volatile rain god Indra, well, Indra unleashed a terrifying, wrathful storm right on top of them. So what does Krishna do to shield his people and their animals from drowning? He simply walks over to Govardhan Giri and lifts the entire mountain on his little finger. He held it there for exactly 7 days and 7 nights, unmoving, unyielding, until Indra's fury finally just wore out. So his power wasn't just for fighting, you see, it was this boundless sanctuary. By the time he's just 12 years old, that power had built a seriously formidable reputation. The time had come to finally face the source of these attacks. He and his brother walked straight into Kamsa's ultimate trap in Mathura. First, they effortlessly dismantle the king's champion wrestlers, Mushtika and Chanura, in a brutal traditional bout. Then, the young warrior turns his sights on the king himself. He slays the tyrant, frees his long captive parents, Devaki and Vasudeva, and reinstates the rightful king. It's a huge, triumphant turning point, but it also abruptly foreshadows the massive, grueling wars that lay ahead.
Yet, right in the middle of all this phenomenal, godlike strength, there is a profoundly gentle side to him. Take his childhood friend Sudama. Sudama was living in absolute abject poverty. When he visited Krishna's magnificent kingdom, he was completely mortified to offer his only gift, which was just a tiny pouch of meager rice flakes, Poha. But Krishna, he accepted it with immense joy and love, and without saying a single word about it, as Sudama traveled back, Krishna secretly transformed his friend's dilapidated hut into a spectacular palatial home. It really grounds the story, proving that his immense power was always matched by an unshakable, fierce loyalty.
And that deep sense of duty extended to anyone who was oppressed. When a tyrant named Narakasura imprisoned 16,000 maidens and caused widespread terror, Krishna immediately rode into battle. But honestly, the most fascinating detail here isn't just Krishna's power, it's that he didn't fight alone. He fought alongside his valiant wife, Satyabhama. Actually, it was Satyabhama who engaged the tyrant in a duel and struck the fatal blow. Afterward, to save those 16,000 rescued women from societal dishonor and rejection, Krishna married them all, offering them a permanent, unbreakable shield of protection. But as Krishna grows older, the narrative makes a big shift. We go from slaying monsters to navigating incredibly tense, high-stakes geopolitics. Just picture this scene, a quiet, suspenseful chariot ride right on the outskirts of Hastinapura. The clock is practically ticking down to a world war. Krishna takes the fierce warrior Karna aside and reveals a closely guarded secret. Karna is actually the firstborn son of Kunti. He's the eldest brother of his sworn enemies, the Pandavas. It's a desperate psychological play to try and avert war, but bound by his own loyalties, Karna flat out refuses to leave Duryodhana's side.
This desperation leads directly into a doomed peace mission. Krishna arrives at the court as the official peace messenger, but Duryodhana? He has absolutely no intention of peace. He is already setting traps, literally. He builds a hidden trap door right under Krishna's chair to capture him. Of course, Krishna effortlessly evades it. Then, to shock the court into their senses, he expands into his terrifying, awe-inspiring cosmic form. But Duryodhana is so completely blinded by his lust for power that he just ignores the divine warning. And with that, the path to the devastating Kurukshetra war is irrevocably locked in. When it becomes crystal clear that war is unavoidable, the venerable counselor Vidura asks Krishna a really heavy question. He asks, why even bother trying to negotiate if you knew this calamity was inevitable? Krishna's response is incredibly grounding. He says he did it so future generations wouldn't think he just sat back and allowed a disaster to happen without lifting a finger. He says fear of failure is not an excuse for lack of effort. Wow. It's a profound piece of wisdom that speaks volumes about the heavy, relentless burden of leadership and duty, even in our own lives today.
And that brings us to the true epicenter of his legacy. On the very brink of war, with weapons drawn, the great warrior Arjuna is entirely paralyzed by grief. He is just unable to fight his own family. Here, Krishna delivers the ultimate counsel, the Bhagavad Gita. To awaken Arjuna from his despair, he once again reveals the Vishwaroopa Darshan. This staggering revelation of his true, cosmic self right there in the middle of the blood-soaked battlefield. That is the moment that permanently deified Krishna in the hearts and minds of the people forever. But victory comes at an agonizing cost. The aftermath of the war is just a landscape of absolute grief. Gandhari has just lost all 100 of her sons in the slaughter. In her immense agony, she turns to Krishna and delivers a curse. She decrees that just as she witnessed the annihilation of her family, Krishna too will live to see the complete destruction of his own Yadava dynasty in exactly 36 years. This haunting prophecy casts a dark, impending shadow over the entire remainder of his life. And that chilling prophecy systematically comes true. The clock ticks down for 36 years. Then, suddenly, a bitter, vicious civil war breaks out among his own people in his beloved city of Dwarka. Sensing the absolute end is near, Krishna orders an immediate evacuation of the city, and he retreats south to the forest. And there, a tragic case of mistaken identity brings his mortal journey to a close. A hunter named Jara mistakes Krishna's heel for the mouth of a deer and fires a fatal, poisoned arrow. So the divine journey ends quietly, right there on the banks of a river. But the suspense doesn't actually end with his departure. We actually have an eyewitness account recorded in the Modula Parva. Arjuna rushes to evacuate the remaining women and children from Dwarka, and he watches as a literal apocalyptic event unfolds. A colossal tidal wave, a massive tsunami, rises up and swallows the beautiful coastal city whole. He notes with this heavy dread, in a matter of a few minutes, it was all over. Sea had now become a placid lake. Dwarka was erased. It became nothing but a memory. Yet traces of this epic myth physically remain in our world today. In Udupi, for instance, there is an idol originally sculpted by the gods from Saligramma stone that was literally recovered by a sailor from the heavy, light brown Gopi Chandan sands of sunken Dwarka. And in the great temple of Jagannath Puri, legends say a bundle called the Brahmapotli contains the actual mortal remains of Krishna. It's a secret so sacred that it's transferred to a fresh idol every 12 years by a priest who must be completely blindfolded. All of which leaves us with a final, lingering question. When that massive tsunami reduced the great city of Dwarka to a placid lake, did the essence of Krishna truly sink beneath the waves? Or did it merely shed its mortal constraints, transforming into the immortal wisdom that continues to echo through the ages? It is a remarkable journey, from the entire cosmos resting in a child's mouth to a legacy hidden deep within the ocean. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking questions and keep exploring these incredible stories.